Hello guys, this is Chico Lopez. I hope you're having a blessed day. Thais Lopez is here with me. She's not in the camera, of course. But listen guys, today is very important. We're going to talk about people asking me this question in different ways. We look at the polls that we run in some of our websites and we find out that there's one question they always want to ask me. It says, Chico Lopez, if you were wanting to buy an American Pit Bull today, if you were not the breeder, creator of dogs, and you wanted to buy a dog, what will be your process? Where will you start?
Chico Lopez buying process.
Chico Lopez buying process of a dog. I think that was one of the very clever moves that I made when I was 19, 20, 25, 26, 27 years old. It was the fact that I was able to look for the best dogs. I wanted to get the best dogs. So where do you start buying the best dog? It's a very simple process. When you want to buy the best dogs, you need to identify what defines the dogs to be best. You need to know exactly what is an American Pit Bull Terrier. I was blessed to know what was a real American Pit Bull Terrier. I think that was the first thing.
Because the difference between
a bully and an American Pit Bull Terrier. Because to be honest with you, there was a part where I was a little confused because I was supposed to be a Pit Bull magazine for breeders of American Pit Bull Terriers. But they were advertising already the beginnings of the bullies, which was the
as pit bulls.
As pit bulls, the big old head dogs and stuff like that. And was a guy in Florida that had these dogs for $1,500 back then, and it was a big head. And they had these colors with the spikes and everything that was completely out of what the traditional American Pit Bull Terrier was. And they were selling it and advertising it, the best dogs and so on and so forth. So I was like, I was a little bit in shock. I was like, oh, okay, you know, what is this and what is that? And I was going to buy a puppy. I was ready to buy a puppy. And this one person, which I'm very grateful to, rest in peace, came and told me and says, listen, that dog right there is not a pit bull. If you want to have a pit bull, these are the dogs you got to be looking at. And you got to be looking at dogs with bloodlines, you have a person behind the dogs, and you have this and you have that. And I automatically understood that there was an ocean of dogs that they call pit bulls that were today the biggest umbrella. They became an umbrella, and they had these dogs called pit bulls. That those dogs literally were kind of like mutts, all of them.
Incredible how information from one right person.
That was something.
At that time,
At that
time people didn't have Chico Lopez.
If that guy wouldn't tell me that, I would have been lost, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So he literally saved me from going the wrong path. But I also got to tell you something else. His name is Ralph Reyes. He was a great guy. He was a good guy. He did good things for me, and we were friends, had mutual respect one another. And what happens is he told me that those dogs are garbage. And you know, some people might get offended when I say that, but that's exactly what he said, you know. And in the big, larger pictures, when it comes to genetics, he's correct when it comes to genetics. If somebody wants to have it as pet, I always said, you want to have it as pet, you can have a lizard, you can have an iguana, you can have a snake, you can have a spider, or a chicken, and they make you happy as a pet, have it as pet. But if you want to talk about genetics, don't tell me that because it's your dog, now, you know, the genetics are going to become perfect. So let me go back to the process. So what I did is discover that there were bloodlines, that there were dogmen, that there were this and that. Not everyone was called a dogman. Big difference at 2021 where any mud guy called himself a dogman. Or a breeder. You know, anybody that have puppies, they don't call them a breeders. And so when people find out in New York that I was a young man, always dressed with a nice jacket, a suit, and these men knew I had money, they came out to me I had guys walking into my house, and they saying, I heard that you're buying dogs and you're paying well, but I take a look at these dogs for consideration. These Jeep dogs, these whatever bloodlines, blah, 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 combinations, and everyone has a story to tell about why their particular dogs are the best dogs in the world.
So at that time, and compared to today, there are many options. Because
at the time you had the same options that you have as the ocean of dogs. The dogs were not so deformed as 30 years later. Today the dogs are completely destroyed. You have that umbrella of pit bull type, and it's completely destroyed. So you go back into that time. And so the dogs, even the dogs walking on the street with that pedigree, look better than the dogs today with the pedigree. Absolutely. I was walking in the Bronx, and you see dogs that were walking by old ladies and stuff like that. You take those dogs to a dog show today, and that dog look a lot better. I promise you. So the dogs were better. The people, those dogs in the street were closer to the real dogman. They were closer to the real dogman. And what happens is that the quality of the animals was better. And when you were looking for those people that created those dogs, there was something that it struck me. Which are the heads, the people that has the best dogs? Which are those guys? You say, well, that guy, that guy, that guy. Because like they are famous, they're respected, they have they've been in the dogs for many, many years, they have a brand. They have a brand. And those men were brands, right? I don't want to say their names, but they were brands. Some of them were writing books, some of them whatever. So what I did is I approached each one of those guys, they were completely out of New York, because I say no to all the guys in New York. There were hundreds of people selling dogs, and I said, these guys are all local. There was one guy that, I bought some dogs from him. They were okay dogs. But then I went outside, and I started buying those dogs. So I went over and I said, well, you got here 100, 150 dogs. And I knew automatically by looking at the dogs that the dogs were not of the same quality. I knew that the guy was big, but his dogs were not consistent. So I knew that I had a problem. The dogs were not consistent. So I wanted to tell this guy, I want to buy the best dog you have. So they usually didn't want to sell the best dog they had. So I had to pay tremendous amount of money to get the best puppies possible. Because I didn't want to have a big dog also. I wanted to have a puppy because I wanted to start with the puppy to raise it with my family. And one of the things that I was looking for was that the dogs were not man biters, that were good with children and so on and so forth. I got something to tell you. All the puppies, absolutely, just as today, even the mud puppies, they look cute. You find a reason why to be cute. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So for instance, the image of what is a pit bull, it became the wrong image today, right? So when you go back to those dogs, I look at the dogs and I say, I got these puppies. Automatically I understood their behavior, automatically understood their temperament, automatically understood their body type, and they were different. They were all pit bulls of high quality people, of men that it was them and other men, the 1800s. It was them, 2 or 3 men, the 1800s. So I went to those men, but then there was also a man that I was already listening and hearing his name, and there was a website by him, and it was the man that owned Grand Champion Mayday. And it was very difficult to get to him, and I got the number at the time, his number. That was before he had the website, and I got to him, and I discovered he was a very smart guy, very clever guy. I automatically understood that the better men had a difference from most of the guys in New York. The guys in New York, the way they talk was very streetwise, kind of like the hood, the way they talk and stuff, the New York style. And these are the guys, they were upper scale in society. They were, they read more books, put it this way, right? And so as that happened, I became friends with this man, and he was out of the country. And I didn't mind investing heavy money with him to get the best dogs, because I was going to go even out of the country, out to the moon, out to Mars to get the best dog, because my mission had become to get the one dog that was the best dog in the world. And when I got those dogs from all those big heads, none of them really convinced me to be. One second, none of those men convinced me that men A and men B and men C and men D were better one to another. We're all at the same level. But these men in Ecuador, I believe he was a little higher than them. And so
you did understand that the best dog is a mirror of the great man.
And understood that the most important part that I understood was that the man behind the dog was the most important thing. And that's also why I say always when you're going to buy a dog, take a look at the man behind the dog. So they were, like, for instance, you're looking at this guy, right? And there is an ocean of pretenders. Oh, I got the same bloodline, I got the same pedigree, I got the same this, the same that, blah, blah, blah. I got tie this, tie that, boo, 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 in the streets. And when you look at the man is up here, everybody is beneath him. So I didn't pay any attention to those beneath them, and I did the right move, because those guys got completely, their dogs themselves got completely washed out. 30 years back, I look back, those guys are gone. They don't exist anymore.
Yep.
And so
That's the proof of time.
that's the proof of time, the test of time. So when it comes, listen to this. So when it comes to that guy, the guy was sharp. It was VA. VA was sharp. But VA was a businessman that was selling dogs to anyone with $1. And so I understood, by being so lucky, being so blessed, and no one that's probably watching this video has been that blessed, I was able to know Mayday and VA, Victor Akert at the time. I was able to see all the best dogs. I was so lucky living in the Bronx. I was like just 2-3 minutes, 2-3 steps, and I was there when Grand Champion Hunch came in at a 17-month-old pup, and he wanted to kill everybody that came around him, like people, humans as well. And he was a beautiful, gorgeous-looking dog, and you can tell when Hunch was walking and all the dogs, the other so-called pit bulls, because the Bronx was completely full of pit bulls, like you wouldn't believe. It was called Pitbull City, and you see all those guys, and there was Hunch, and Hunch was different. At the moment, we thought Hunch was the best dog in the world, and he turned out to be a very good dog. I'm not gonna take nothing away from him. He would disappoint us, all of us at the time, even the owner, as a producer. He was not a good producer. Unfortunately, he didn't have that capacity of production, but he was a decent dog. I wouldn't say he's the best dog because I got to see everybody else, so I was able to judge them. I was, some Barracuda, 600, also the Licardo, and all these other dogs. I said that my life is like Forrest Gump type of life. How I was so lucky that I knew that VA had the best dogs, and one of his dogs, this Hunch dog, was right next door to me. In the whole Bronx, no one, absolutely no one, had a son of Mayday, and he was right next to me. So I was able to see his behavior. We'll go to train him. We'll go walk him. We have beautiful stories going on the how do you call it, on the street, running with the bikes. I mean, it was just tremendous. I look at those memories and think Ralph, rest in peace, my friend Ralph, and we going through Grand Concourse, 196. We'll go up to 205, and then we'll go down on the Concourse, and you see the city buses, you see the taxis, the yellow cabs, and so on and so forth. And I'm going in the bike with Bruno Boy, and he's going with the skateboard with Hunch. It was tremendous. I mean, you do that today, you'd be in a lot of trouble. We used to do that back then. Times have changed, of course, and we used to do that. What happens to quality? What happens to quality? Victor Akert had produced all these dogs. Quickly, I discovered that not all dogs were the same. That Mayday had some clusters of their best dogs. Had clusters on the litter where Hunch was born. It was a small cluster, him and May. And there was a cluster with Lucane was born. There was a cluster with the cluster of Barracuda and his sisters and so on and so forth. But I didn't like Lucane. I loved the way he looked. And I like his pedigree, but I didn't like the way he performed. In Hunch, it was good, but I wasn't sold on him, and I already saw his sons, and I wasn't convinced. Remember, they had all these dogs that were very tight in bloodline. Not like today, everything is watered down. At their very best, and one of the dogs that I really liked was Chanel. I was, Chanel, Annabelle, I liked them.
Chanel and Annabelle was.
They were sisters. Yeah, they were all sisters. I get to that back another time. But what I like, and I always thought that would be a great breeding, was the breeding of Blondie and Grand Champion Mayday. We thought that
Chanel and Annabelle was sister of Hercules.
Hercules. They were sisters of Hercules. Yes, they were. Chanel and Annabelle were sisters of Hercules. That leader right there was very powerful. By the way, the semen on Hercules, I have it all for sale right now. But anyhow, when you go back and you look at the breeding that everybody thought, paper, this breeding looks so good. Can it live up to the hype of the paper? Grand Champion Buck, Grand Champion Mayday, and you had that. The dogs became so prized, and because my friend he needed money, he needed funds, he sold the dogs to the people that were actually coming up already as fans of Mayday. They already heard of Hunch, already heard of Barracuda, and those guys wanted to buy the dog. Unfortunately, the dogs end up not in the hands of the men that were able to develop them the best, and they end up in the hands of brand new fanciers, complete rookies. And what happens is, I was that Forrest Gump type of story. When you go back into, I was in the Bronx. I mean, I left from the Bronx and I was with Macho. It was like, think about it, from Hunch to Macho. And Macho was right there. It was like my life was meant to be around these dogs. And the boy that had him didn't know what to do with him and stuff like that. I got to see him, and I was impressed. I called him and I said, I haven't seen one like that. And people say, how can you say this so quickly? How can you say the best Mayday dog by the dog don't even have a title? I said, because I have a special eye. And my friend, which was my friend, he said, that young boy has a very good eye for dogs. And I do believe he has a clinical eye. He says it till now, your clinical eye is the most powerful tool that you have in your breeding program. He says it till today. We were in Panama the other day, and he said it. Chico Lopez's clinical eye is the most powerful tool he has on selection. I wish it wasn't like that, because once I'm gone, the clinical eye also is gone. But anyhow, I'm proud that I had the clinical eye. I had the clinical eye. I had the clinical eye when I picked up Bruno. And I had the clinical eye when I picked up Cheyenne. And I had the clinical eye to pick up. So you asking me this question about me getting the dog, that is the clinical eye. And having that clinical eye allowed me to have this, allow me to make the move. I could have breed to Barracuda for free, but I decided to breed to Macho. The lady became Macho one time, winner Ram. And I produced dogs that had something that those old heads had A, B, C, D, and G didn't have, which is consistency. I was able to develop consistency. And I was able to move from good to great. And applies to the same law of Gene Collins when Gene Collins says that good is the enemy of great. Because when you people settle for good because they're content and they're happy with good, they never go to great. They never move to great. You understand? They never find greatness. Greatness is right here. They don't find it because they're happy with good. And that's what happened.
You use your common sense.
I use a lot of common sense.
Was like the way, and then when you find the way, you use your clinical eye to choose the better.
Yes, exactly. I had an instinct to find the best people. I had a measurable. Who am I? I didn't want to have a pit bull from just anybody. So this pit bull have a dog and it has this bloodline and that bloodline. Those guys, they were by the millions in the streets in New York, and they all had leaders.
So let me ask
they all had leaders. 1 second. They all had leaders in the basement. I want to put this clear. Dogs with pedigrees, coming from dogmen, coming from champions and whatever they had at that time in the New York City area, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut, they all had those dogs, and they were all available. At that time, $500 to $700. Nobody was selling dogs for $1,000. It was only Victor was selling dogs for $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. And at that time, I said no. And they were easy for me to get, and they were right there. I said no. I don't want these.
Imagine how far you go.
I was very far.
To buy the most expensive dog out of the country.
Out of the country.
You understand.
Because I understood.
That the better man will have more chances, much more chances to give you the better puppy. Than the guys that
at the end of the day, I wanted to increase my chances.
Yeah, I know.
I wanted to increase my chances.
But let me ask you something.
Yeah.
I know that today people like to use the internet for everything, and they jump to make a purchase without even talk to the guy, the breed dogs, to the owner. But for you, was very important to talk with each one of the person that you purchase dog from, right? Because to me,
I wanted to hear the voice. Even today, when somebody wants to buy a dog from me, I want to hear the person. I want to get a little bit. Listen to me. I failed terribly many times, and some of the mistakes that I make that at one point I thought they were bad and turned out to be actually good mistakes. God work in mysterious way. God might say, I want to take this piece of crap person that is alive, and I'm going to move it here where this person is going to make you uncomfortable, but don't worry about it. That uncomfort will make you a better person. And this is a piece of crap person, and it will get all the flies out of your life, and they will move them away. God is that person. So listen, I today having an eye to pick out the person and having an eye to pick out the dogs is extremely important. For me, to have the best dog is the most important part. I understood one thing. I understood until was day. I understood that later on down the road that in order for me to have the best dog, I had to become a dogman. And so I had to become that person that would develop the dogs. And I became that one Chico Lopez person. And because and as I developed myself into that person, I was able to find out and discover what was good, what was that. I did so many tests. I went and bought dogs from a lot of different people. I brought them in. I looked at them. I didn't like them. Got rid of them. Got new ones, and so on and so forth. And you know how many dogs I have put in adoption, given to people that I don't like. People come and say, "I don't like this dog." Okay, we want to get him neuter, spayed, and we're just going to give this dog away to somebody. So we did that, and now I'm in a position today where I see society like this. I see people that they have two choices. You have an umbrella, and in that umbrella you have all the ocean of dogs that can go ranging from 20 pounds to 150-pound monster. They don't call them pit bulls no more. It's called pit bull type. People call them pit bulls, but the people that actually know about dogs, they cannot call all these bunch of dogs a breed like they call the German Shepherd, the quality of German Shepherd. You cannot. Look, the German Shepherd is right here, the Pointer is right here, the Golden Retriever is right here, and this ocean of mutts they call pit bulls, which is a problem because everyone that's breeding pit bulls is part of that problem. And they have that umbrella of mutts. And so if I walk into that umbrella of mutts today, I'll have no chance. I have no chance. I have to say that I was blessed to be in the 1990s, and I was able to bypass that umbrella. And today you have that umbrella and you have Chico Lopez. You have two choices. That umbrella where you have dogs from all these weights. You may have some underground dogs that they have papers and they do have a bloodline. They have those and they think that they are good dogs, and they say, "Oh, well, I also have a real pit bull," but they are on that underground world, which is attached to crime and drugs and all the things, and they are on that umbrella. And then on the other side, you have Chico Lopez, the ambassador of the breed that wants to put the breed in a better position. My job is to showcase the dogs to the champions and the better people, the better humans, the doctors, the engineers, the lawyers. And it became the option, because before Chico Lopez, there's really no option. You have that umbrella where you have the mud dogs that are completely destroyed, or you have the underground world where you have delusional people on the internet talking BS as they know about dogs when they really don't. No merits, nothing great about them. And the very underground dogs, which are just criminals. So you have only that option. Today, the people actually have the best option in the world. If they do qualify, they can actually have.
If excellence is part of the priority.
If excellence is part of the priority, that's something very nice. If excellence is part of the priority, there's people that excellence is not part of the priority.
30 years ago, excellence was part of your priority. That's
It
why
is.
you
It
find
is
stuff.
today.
But
It is today. It is today.
Other people, they didn't have. So those people, they found.
And what happens? What happens to most people today when they walk into this world of pit bulls? They don't know which direction to go. Yeah. They don't know. And even some people that are clever and smart, they get confused because they don't have this vision of this umbrella where you have all the mutts, all the mixed dogs, all the Merle dogs, all the blue dogs, fake pit bulls, and all that all together, mixed with dogs that got papers, that got pedigrees and stuff like that, which the majority are also mutts. They have the show dogs, and you have the underground. So a lot of people go and find the underground and say, "Oh, well, this is a real pit bull too, and he has a bloodline, and he came from the guy."
Years ago,
I was in that position with that crowd 30 years ago, and I said no. But some people today don't have the same capacity that I had, and that's what I said at the beginning. I was very proud of who I was when I was 19, 20, 25, 26, 27 years old. I was able to identify that those dogs with a pedigree in the hands of some kind of shady people, that the person that is behind the dog was the most important part.
No, what I'm saying is this: 30 years ago, the dogs that you purchased, they come from people that you select to be the best. They also
turned out to be not the best.
They also were different dogs.
They were different dogs.
Remember that you told me that each dog have different temperament,
different character.
Imagine today,
and not only that. Listen to me. Listen to this. And what about all the dogs that I purchased from guy A, B, C, D, E, and they didn't work out? I'm talking about. Listen to this. What I'm gonna tell you, very important. You go back. Pay attention to what I'm gonna tell you. You go back to 1993, 94, 95, and you find this A, B, C, D, F, G dogmen, top of the line. I'm buying dogs from them, and they didn't work out. those guys were better, 100 times better, 1,000,000 times better than anyone today with a website, with dogs, with pedigrees, and their bloodline is tie this, tie that, blah, blah, blah. All those guys were better. Those guys were these guys exist today in the back of the pedigree of those dogs. And those dogs that are selling today are the watered down from those dogs that I purchased the best and I reject. You understand? So the separation, what I want to tell you, the separation between those men at the time and who I am today is miles apart. And the separation between those men and the men that have their own watered down bloodline is miles and miles apart. The dogs might look similar sometimes.
Not only because of the quality of the dogs, but because those guys, they didn't have the right mentor. So they failed on mentoring, they didn't have the right blueprint, and the dogs were completely...
Can I tell you something about what you said about mentor, my friend? Can I teach you something? Are you ready for me to teach you something about mentor and blueprint? I created my own blueprint. You understand? I don't do none of these breedings, the way they breed, all these ideas.
What is your name?
Chico Lopez.
There is only one Chico Lopez.
Yes, but okay? I don't have.
I'm not the only person that tell you that.
No, a lot of people say that, but I don't have this blueprint. And you know something? I didn't have one person that really guided me through my whole thing, but I had some bits that were important. I believe that the time when Reyes told me not to go in this direction, go in a different direction, I think the man was correct, and that was a very pivotal moment in my life in the dogs. And I believe that Acart being able to tell me, go in this direction, go in that direction, buy this puppy, buy that, had a lot to do. But himself, he said it out there in Panama. He said, listen, I told him to go buy this puppy, but I never expected him to just go and say, I don't want that puppy. I want this other puppy in the same litter. And being able to get that best puppy in the litter, it was important. And you know something? In that litter, there was only one puppy that was really that amazing, and I kept it. And they wanted to give me a different puppy. But today, I have a litter of 6, and I can close my eyes, grab a puppy, and I find a puppy. And that I achieved that through the work. The video, I want to go. This video is a sample of what we are going to have in our Patreon channel.
Just compress what in a few words. What was the betting process of Chico Lopez? Number one, identify the better man, because this better man is going to give you the
I have to identify what was the better man, but I had to have measurables to measure what was the better man. I can't just go because I like the color of his eyes, or I like the way he talks, or I like his channel, I like his chat. I didn't do it this way. I did it by having measurables. I had this like if you're gonna buy a Ferrari, you know, Ferrari is the brand, right? And then Ferrari has models, right? And when you have that model, la Ferrari, then you have some developer that develop, you know, the Pininfarina working with Hermes and develop a special version of the La Ferrari, and there's going to be only 5 cars, right? And instead of having the 800 horsepower motor, this motor is going to be triple turbo, whatever. It's going to have like 1,600 horsepowers and so on and so forth. I wanted that model. I wanted the very best of the best.
So measurables of the man.
The measurables, you need to understand the measurables.
Number 2.
So when you ask me my measurables, because I always tell people, I say, listen, the same way I'm talking with you, let me give you my measurables, okay? I've been on these dogs for 30 years, and there's people that have dogs for 50 years. I can have a puppy right now, grab a puppy, sell it to a school teacher, and that school teacher is going to have a better dog than the man that's breeding dogs for 50 years. And I can prove it. And that's a measurable. That to me, that is a very practical measurable. And you cannot measure it by one dog. Look at the whole picture, all the puppies, everything, all together. And it is a beautiful thing. What can I tell you? Listen.
So the consistency of the dog, the authority of the man, and
he's always going to be the man behind the dog.
Yeah.
Always.
But
let's go back to what I told you about. Top heads. Not the guys that had dogs with pedigrees in New York City. top heads, A, B, C, D, F, G, and I have their faces in my walking through the yard looking at the dogs. And you know something? I knew the VA was better than all of them. I knew that VA was better than all of them. Talking with him, understanding his qualities as a human, understanding his level of intelligence, his intellect was very important to me. And I'm not talking about just a guy that talks a lot of BS. I'm talking about the real life intellect. The guy, the authority. The guy was a self-made millionaire. You know, you gotta have human qualities to become a self-made millionaire. And that to me, and that's why when I come to my dogs, I want to work with entrepreneurs. I want to work with doctors, engineers, and I will work with someone that is not a doctor and engineer, that is a regular person that works very hard, that put the kids through college. And to me, that's a hero too. You know, that's a way of being a hero. And the person has one thing that's called morals, and it has a word. To me, that's very important. So I'm not only working with celebrities and stuff like that. I'll work with somebody. Tell me, Chico, listen, I'm a plumber. I own my own home. I put my kids through college, and I want to get the best dog in the world. Do you think I qualify? I'll say, yes, you qualify. You understand? But if you call me and, you know, you sound like, you know, like you don't sound like someone that I want to invite to my house and let my mother meet you, I'll take that plumber. I take the Chris Cyber, the how do you call it, the world champion, and I take Marco Antonio Barreras, a tremendous human being. I take these three people and I tell my mom, these are my friends right here. They have my dogs. I want to be in that position. You understand? So I'm building a community for great dogs. What else can I tell you? Do you have any more questions?
Thank you to give people the prospect, the
process. It's a process. It's a process.
The prospect, the big picture, so people can see, understand how you 30 years ago used this process and was successful, and how can they use the same process, and now they use the same philosophy. You can use the process. Look for the best man. Look for the best man with the best dog, with the muscles. What I will do today is pretty simple. I look for the guy that said, listen, is anybody writing books about your dogs? Is anybody mentioning your name? Is your dog in cover books, cover the magazines? Who has your dogs? You know, that'll be a pretty good thing, you know? Anyhow, there is anything else? I think that this is only a sample. We will put this on regular IG. We're going to put this on regular YouTube. And this is only a sample of the kind of work that we're going to bring into our Patreon account, where you're going to be able to subscribe and support the work, because we're putting a lot of hours into this. But yes, we want to protect the breed. And yes, we don't want people to have the dogs on that umbrella of the so-called pit bull type. We want you to have the real deal, the real American Pit Bull Terrier. My name is Chico Lopez. She's amazing. Her name is Chico Lopez. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.